Several years ago, there was an article in Slate Magazine entitled An Affair to Remember. It was written by Melinda Henneberger, and she posed the question if all of us should include a sexual power of attorney in our end-of-life planning documents. Well, her story was about Bob and Dorothy. Bob was 91, Dorothy was 89. They were both widowed, and they both had dementia. Now, Bob had been a bit of a player in the memory care facility where he lived, and he liked the ladies, and the ladies liked him. And then Dorothy moved in, and she was sweet and kind of shy and not the type that Bob was usually attracted to. But one morning they had breakfast together, and then they had lunch, and then they had dinner, and pretty soon they were walking down the hall holding hands, and everyone thought it was sweet. Dorothy played the piano, and Bob loved to sing along. Dorothy knew a lot of songs, but Bob could only remember the lyrics to one, I Dream of Jeannie with the Light Brown Hair. So that's what he sang along to any song that she played on the piano. And they were just having a lovely time, and everyone thought it was sweet and innocent and cute. And then one day, Bob's son came to visit, and he walked into his father's room without knocking, and he was horrified when he saw Bob and Dorothy in bed together. And Dorothy was performing oral sex on Bob. And the son cried out, no, 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 no. He was absolutely, totally grossed out. He went chasing down to the administrator's office saying, I want that woman kept out of my father's room. He has a bad heart. This isn't good for him. He could die. Well, I think Bob's son was maybe the one with the bad heart, but that's just my opinion. But the administrator said they would do their best to try to keep them apart, which they did. The word of Bob and Dorothy's affair spread quickly among the staff and the residents. Some of the female residents got upset because they had had their own designs on Bob, and they were a little bit jealous. They didn't like the fact that he was being sexually active with Dorothy, and he didn't pay attention to them anymore. Now, some of the staff members were very religious, and they thought it was sinful for Bob and Dorothy to be having sex out of wedlock. So everyone was up in arms. Now, Dorothy's daughter was not upset. She was the one that didn't get all worked up. She said she had not seen her mother so happy in years. And she requested a meeting with Bob's son. And when they got together, she said, I don't see any harm in it. And he said, it is gross. It's disgusting. Well, the administrator thought that perhaps Bob's son was afraid that his dad and Dorothy would get married and he might change his will and leave a lot of his money to Dorothy and her kids. And Dorothy's daughter recognized that this fear was a legitimate concern. So she said, you know what, they want to get married, so let's just have a ceremony. It just won't be legal. And if it would make you feel any better, I will meet with an attorney and I will pay to have a prenup created, just in case there's any question if your dad passes before my mother dies. I will make sure it's clear in the prenup that you and your family get all of your dad's money. I don't want anything from my mother except for your father's companionship. Well, Bob's son was not agreeable to that. So the staff continued to keep them out of each other's rooms, but they couldn't keep them apart. Bob and Dorothy were taking pillows with them and going to the reception area or any other gathering place that had seating arrangement that could accommodate both of them, and they continued to pleasure one another under their pillows. Well, that got people in an uproar. I mean, you can just imagine the scene as visitors, residents, and staff members recognized what was going on below those pillows. Well, then Bob's son decided he needed to take an extra step. So he hired a nurse to protect his father from Dorothy. And she organized a wheelchair brigade to surround Bob wherever he went to prevent Dorothy from getting close to him. Now, Dorothy's daughter walked in one day and she saw this and she was absolutely disgusted and outraged. She went straight to the administrator and said, "This is ridiculous. We need to bring in a mediator." So they did, and they were making some progress, and then the mediator was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and she died 7 weeks later. So they brought in another mediator, but the progress stalled. And then one morning, Bob's private nurse and a moving company showed up unannounced at the memory care facility, and the mover started packing Bob's things and moving his furniture onto a truck. As the nurse ushered Bob out of his room, he was crying out, "What's happening? Where are you taking me? What are you doing? Where is Dorothy? Where is Dorothy?" He was still calling out for her when he disappeared out the door. And then when Dorothy came down for breakfast, she went to Bob's room and she found it empty, and she panicked. She started going from person to person and asking, "Where's Bob? What's happened to Bob? Bob? Bob, where are you? Where's Bob? Where did he go? Why can't I find him? What's happened to Bob?" And then she would just call out, "Bob, Bob, where are you?" When she finally realized she wasn't going to find him, she became incredibly sad. And she sank into a depression. She lost 21 pounds and she became dehydrated. She had to be hospitalized. Eventually, her Alzheimer's robbed her of her memory of Bob, but her daughter said she was actually brokenhearted for the rest of her life. She never regained the spark or the happiness that she had had when she and Bob were together. And to me, that is an absolutely tragic story. Since there are so many differences of opinions and very few policies about who gets to decide if it's okay for people that have dementia to have sex, I decided to include instructions regarding my sexuality in my advance directive to my children, who are my healthcare representatives. And this is what I wrote. As my healthcare representatives, I am directing you to not place me in a nursing home that does not respect its residents' right to privacy and intimacy. If I develop dementia and I lose all of my memories of my marriage and my love for Alex and I get romantically involved with another man, it is my wish that you do not interfere. As long as I am conscious and aware of the things that bring me pleasure and joy, let me make my own choices about what I eat, what I drink, and with whom I sleep. Unless you have reason to believe that I am being bullied, forced, manipulated, emotionally, or physically abused, let me enjoy whatever companionship and pleasure I receive from any intimate relationship. If the nursing home does not provide locks for residents' doors, you might want to provide me with a do not disturb sign. And if I forget that I need to put the sign on the door, please be sure to knock before you enter. Okay, let's take a deep breath. I think it is important for us to recognize that the sexual preferences and practices of people with healthy brains can be perplexing. So when it comes to making decisions about how to respond to the sexual activities of people who are living with cognitive disorders and disorders and dementia-related diseases, maybe we should just make sure that they're safe. We need to be absolutely certain that they are not being bullied, harassed, or abused, and that whatever is happening is consensual. But beyond that, I think if they develop an intimate relationship with another person and it is making them feel loved, connected, and happy, perhaps we should decide that what goes on behind closed doors is none of our business. And who knows, if any of us end up in memory care, perhaps we'll have more to look forward to than mealtime and bingo.